The IS nameplate has been around now for 2 decades. It's a car known that can do a little bit of everything. Refined, sleek, and well made. But after the early 2000s, it never really made a mark. Until now.
What is going on, guys? Today you're looking at the Lexus IS500, and as you can hear, it sounds absolutely magnificent. Now, enthusiasts have been wondering for a while when Lexus is going to actually make another high-performance IS. And with the GSF finally out of production as of 2020, Lexus finally saw the opportunity to give us the IS500. Now, the IS500 gets the same exact 5-liter V8 from the RCF and the LC500. Now, this produces 472 horsepower and 395 pound-feet of torque. And a little fun fact, this actually has 56 more horsepower than the previous generation ISF. Now, what I love about this IS500 is that Lexus has really packaged it into their sleek and new design. You really can't tell that this car is packing a naturally aspirated V8 until, of course, you look at the back where the quad exhaust is. In addition, the sound note, like I mentioned earlier, is just utterly magnificent and certainly harkens back to the days when we really rejoiced cars with big displacement engines. This car really is the perfect example of the term wolf in sheep's clothing. Now, for some people, they'll like the understated look, and for some people, they won't. Personally, I lean more towards the fact that it's completely low-key. Now, the driving dynamics of the IS, what they really wanted to do is kind of hit you with the nostalgia, because this is essentially an old school recipe, right? So we have a naturally aspirated V8 at the front, an LSD, and all the power driven through the rear. And of course, with this absolutely amazing noise that's coming out of this car. Peak power really is on the top end. So you have to rev it up all the way to 7,000 to really get the most out of the engine. This car has an 8-speed auto that you can find in the RCF. Since this car is geared more towards a little bit more on the sporty side and not necessarily a grand touring car like the LC, this has the 8-speed. Now, the 8-speed is not as fast as, the competitors. Of course, there's dual clutches out there now, and there's so many other faster transmissions that you can find in other cars, but this one does its job. And what's great is that it's completely smooth when you're driving it around. And at the end of the day, there are a lot of people out there that will buy these cars purely to daily drive them. There's not going to be a lot of people, in truth, will track this, even though it's incredibly capable. Now, definitely when you put this in manual, you could really feel the shifts of the car, which honestly adds to the charisma of this car, because again, it kind of provides that old school mechanical feel, which a lot of purists out there, I'm sure they will love. Now, sitting inside the new IS500 is feeling a little bit outdated. Certainly a lot of journalists and consumers would tell you that all of the technology that you would usually find in other competitors, you won't necessarily find in this car. It's definitely a little bit more in the early 2000s feel on this car, but a new update that they actually did was the fact that they changed the heads-up display into a touchscreen. Now, it's not cutting edge by any means, but hey, it's a welcome addition, and it does have Apple CarPlay. Now, the one thing that's actually really cool and really futuristic about this car is that if I touch this button right here, it moves the gauge clusters. That's certainly one of the main things about this car that is up to date and in with the times is the gauge clusters. Not only is it digital, but it also has that really cool Star Wars, Star Trek kind of feel inside. Now, even though this car has certain drawbacks in the interior, everything is where you'd expect them to be. And given that this is a Japanese car, you can bet that this is going to be extremely reliable. And even after you put many, many miles in this car, I am sure that every button in here will work. Most of these things that are missing in this car, it doesn't really matter. That's not the point of why Lexus produced this. you could complain about not having, ambient lighting and all those other fancy stuff. But what the IS is all about is the fact that you're gonna get a naturally aspirated V8, reliability, comfort, and a certain level of luxury while enjoying the drive. And driving is something that it does extremely well. Now, before we continue with the review of the IS500, I am actually here at the Peterson Automotive Museum, right next to the ISF, and alongside it, the IS500, so we can really see the contrast between the two. Now today, the owner of this ISF is here to walk us through his car. And so I'm gonna go ahead and invite him into the camera right now. Grant, how's it going?
Good, how's it going? Nice to meet you.
Pleasure, pleasure. Thank you so much for bringing your ISF
Of course.
in today.
Yeah, of course.
So why don't you go ahead and talk us through essentially what we're looking at right now.
So this is my 2013 Lexus ISF. It's painted in ultrasonic blue. It's one of the rare years of the ISF. The last year was 2014. So this is the second to last year. There's only 139 in North America that were sold. But yeah, this is my daily driver. I bought it a little over 2 years ago, and I've enjoyed it ever since.
And how's the car been to you in that time? Has it been really
it's
reliable?
been very good, super reliable. I've had literally zero issues. The only time a check engine light came on was because I was messing around with the intake a little bit and knocked a wire loose, but it happens, But other than that, completely reliable, no problems. I just, I do all the maintenance myself, so as long as you do oil changes, brakes, everything like that, this car will take care of you. Yeah.
In terms of what you've done, why don't you walk us through some of the modifications you've done to the car?
Yeah, so mechanically and with the drivetrain, it's pretty much stock. Stock intake, engine, and headers. When I got the car, it had a wacky exhaust on it, so I took that off and put a stainless steel 2.5-inch exhaust all the way back, dual pipes. Other than that, everything else is cosmetic. I did a chrome delete on the whole car. I did some OEM RCF wheels in gunmetal gray. They're a little bit wider than the stock wheels. Obviously put some sticky summer tires on there. And then lowered the front a little bit with some Swift springs, and then everything else cosmetic. Tints, carbon wing in the back.
Right. I think it's tastefully done. I think it's very simple.
Thank you.
And I think the one thing that I love about the ISF, ever since it came out, is the fact that it's so low key and that not a lot of people really know about this car, right?
Yeah, it's definitely one of those cars where you have to know what you're looking at to know what it is. Even some of the other car enthusiasts you see on the road, they don't even know what it is. They're like, is that an F Sport? No, it's an F. They did put a V8 in it.
Right.
And it's normally when I start the car, they go, wait a second,
what's
that's not
there?
That's not a V6. So, but mechanically, this is very different than an IS, even though it looks similar. Transmission, engine, differential, suspension, all's changed from the IS350 to this car.
Now, for some of our audience that are watching, obviously, that they're gonna ask, like, why didn't you get like an E90 M3 or a W204 C63? Why the ISF?
Mainly for the build quality and reliability. I've always been a Toyota guy. My family's had Toyotas. We've also had BMWs. I know the issues there. They had their own problems. This car, like I said, super reliable. I do all my own work on my car, so having something that's reliable and that I can maintain myself is really important.
Absolutely.
And also a car that drives is a lot more fun. That's one that's parked because it's broken.
Right.
But that's why I really like this car. One of my friends, I was looking for a new daily. I was coming out of an STI and he said to look at these. So once I looked at them and read the reviews, it was just like, it's Toyota reliability with Lexus build quality.
Right.
And you can't really ask for much more.
Yeah, you really don't see these cars very often at all. I think for me, I go crazy when I see one because they are kind of like a unicorn. They're so rare.
Yeah, they are very rare. There's only a little over 5,000 sold in North America.
That's incredible. Well, Grant, now that we've obviously talked about the ISF, why don't we actually pivot to the new car? So, let's talk about this one.
Yeah, this is a very exciting car. I have seen one in person before, but not up and close and personal like today.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like what Lexus is doing with this.
First impressions, what do you think so far?
I think it looks great. I know a lot of people have concerns about, the grille and everything, but I think it all does come together very nicely, especially with the updated headlights.
Right, right.
This color, I've actually never seen this color before, and it's very nice. It's got a lot of pearl in it, and it really pops in the sun.
Yeah, that's actually certainly one of the things that when we were driving it around, you know, LA, it's like people stare at this car because of the color. I believe it's called Grecian Water, and it's very striking to look at.
Yeah, I think it's a newer color, so you don't really see this around too much. Same with my car though, I get a lot of compliments on the blue. It's something different, you know. You're always in a sea of black, gray, and white cars now, so it's nice to see something in a cool color like this.
Yeah.
You know, if you're cross shopping between stuff, I love Lexus. It's, you know, they have that unquantifiable characteristic about them where, you know, you look at a spreadsheet and a lot of people compare cars based off of that, but a spreadsheet and the way a car drives are completely different. So
certainly.
I think you got to get it and drive it to truly experience it, because, you know, that engine, this is just an updated version of it, is incredible. You know, the noise, the experience, the intake, the exhaust, all that. It's just, it all comes together in a nice package. You got to have those cars that, you know, remind everyone that Lexus can have fun sometimes, you know.
Exactly.
They're not just a boring car company.
Yeah, a company that has a sense of humor, right?
Exactly, you know, but they're all about passion, so I'm sure I haven't driven this car, but I'm sure it drives great. The engine, like I said, is just incredible, but if you're thinking about buying one, go test drive one maybe, and it might surprise you a little bit.
Now, what I love the most about this car is that it's not trying to be, it's not. It has an identity. And that's what's missing right now with a lot of the competitors. Every single car that, you know, the competitors put out, they always put that one badge that make it seem like it's such a special car, but in all essence, it's just made to sell. And this is different. Yes, it's expensive. Yes, it's a gas guzzling V8. Of course, again, some people will say, well, it just doesn't make sense to own a car like this today. But that's the thing, that's why purists love this car, because that's its charm. That's what makes it different from everybody else, is because it doesn't go in the same route that they're doing. Lexus gave us something that we've always wanted, and essentially a piece of history, because we won't see these cars anymore. This is the last naturally aspirated V8. Now, spending a little bit of time today with the IS500 really gave me a hit of nostalgia. I think it really harkens back to when we really didn't care so much about whether or not a car has self-driving capabilities and all those other gizmos. I think what really matters the most for this car is the fact that we enjoy the act of driving. And I think that's one thing that certainly is missing from a lot of cars nowadays. And yeah, it's been such a pleasure driving this thing, and I can certainly hope that I'll own one one day, because it's certainly quite a machine. A big thank you to Lexus for lending us the IS500 for the next couple days. It certainly wouldn't have been possible to make this without them. And thank you to you watchers for viewing this piece of content. Make sure to hit like and subscribe, as it lets us know that you want to see more, and it really helps us out. And so with that said, we'll see you next time.